Okay, everyone, welcome back. We've got round two of our Guff Geelong League Cup coming up here. On the right, we've got Angus here playing his Regidrago V-Star deck, and Brad on the left here playing a bit of an interesting combination of cards here. Very much more of a control style deck we'll be seeing from him. As we see the players get our opening hands there, we do see that Noivern EX there at the front of Brad's hand. Not going to be too useful in this matchup. Its attack is one that will stop all damage from basic Pokemon. Angus having that option of the V-Star, not going to be too effective against him. But we do see him start that Ogerpon EX, which will stop all attacks from Pokemon with abilities. Angus having a bit of a slow start here, but I think against a control deck, you're not too concerned about that. You do have lots of options in your deck to get through some of these Pokemon, so as long as you're not dead drawing the entire game and giving Brad the option to Misfortune Sisters or area away your tech cards, I don't think you're too upset about having a bit of a slower start. We see Brad here deciding on what to play. It looks like he might be a bit limited in terms of his supporter options, but he does have that Iono able to get a fresh hand. So we see a couple of interesting includes there. We see the Milotic EX will stop all effects from Terra Pokemon. Angus does have that Teal Mask Ogerpon, which is a Terra Pokemon in the active spot, so it would stop that damage, but we do know Angus does run a 3-3 line of the Regidrago V-Star, which will not be stopped by that Milotic EX, so not really a good option in this matchup for Brad. Interesting. I believe Brad did go second there, so a bit unsure why he's playing that Iono. Maybe just thinking Angus might have a bit of a dead hand and not wanting to give him 6 new cards, but I think the chance of Angus having a supporter in his hand and not being able to play that turn 1 is pretty high. So I would have liked to see the Iona come down just to get some new cards, maybe try and hit that Crispin for next turn to get the attack off. And yeah, we do see Angus does have the supporter there in that Professor's Research, being able to discard a few Dragon Pokemon. Fortunately, did get the Ultra Ball off the top deck, so able to get a Regidrago V down. Interestingly enough, Regidrago V does not have an ability, so we'll be able to get through this Ogerpon EX if he's able to get 3 energy on it, and will 2-shot it. So if Angus is able to get the first attack in with that, he will be able to get through it and knock out that Ogerpon EX, being able to save his one-off cancelling Cologne for possibly a later Mimikyu or Ogerpon that may come down the line. Apologies for the glare here on the cards, but it looks like it will be an Earthen Vessel that Angus has played. Get a few more energy out, start accelerating and powering up some of these attackers. Now, once Angus does get 3 energy on this Ogerpon, he will be able to play a Cancelling Clone and take the knockout. Ideally, he will save that and just take the 2-shot with the Drago, but if he does draw into it, he should be playing it sooner rather than later to play around an Eerie or Misfortune Sisters. Now, not sure which one Brad would be playing at this stage, but he might be playing both, so I think playing around those in this matchup will be important for Angus. So we see the ability and the attachment come down, and then just pass over to Brad. So we see Brad's drawn into his ace spec there, the Scoop Up Cyclone. Quite an interesting card. Will be able to prevent Angus from taking that 2-hit KO, but will need to power up his attackers with a Crispin ideally before that. Angus just showing off his competitor Matt there. We do see Brad go for the Noibat here. Interesting. He might have tried some of his Ogerpons or his Mimikyu, because I think those are definitely the Pokemon you want to be going for in this matchup. The interesting thing with the Noivern is that you can force Angus to evolve out of all his non-ability Pokemon, such as his Regidrago V, and then force him down that Cancelling Cologne route. But Angus does have the 1 Cancelling Cologne and will also be able to get it back with the V-Star ability. And then you'll be giving up the 2 prizes from the Noivern EX. So I think that prize map doesn't really map out for Brad here. So interesting to figure out what he was thinking here with this Noibat. Could have just prized some of those other Pokemon that he needs. We do see him holding a Nest Ball there by the looks of it. Unfortunately, it didn't hit the energy, but it does have a Pokegear for next turn, which is why I would have liked to have seen the Iono played last turn, drawing into this Pokegear, being able to use it this turn, would have been good to try and hit that Crispin. And we do see he does hit the Crispin, so playing that Iono last turn, he would have been able to get the attack this turn. Doesn't look like Brad showed Angus that supporter. Yep, there we go, just showing the Crispin for him. So, yeah, Brad could have been able to attack this turn. I think I definitely would have liked to see that Iona come down last turn, if indeed Brad was going second, which I'm pretty sure he was. Also would have liked to see him hold the Pokey Gear here. Angus now knows he has that Crispin in his hand, could hit him with an Iono, and if you were to get Iono and hold the Pokey Gear, that would just be another resource you'd be able to have in your deck for later, and also most likely going to be drawing into that Crispin if you were to get Iono'd. Alright, we see Angus start off with a Teal Dance here on the Ogerpon. Really just hoping to hit that Grass and Cancelling Clone here. Would put him in a really good spot. Angus not really drawing too much of anything here. We do see Brad top deck that Iron Thorn. It's quite an interesting card in this matchup. It is able to shut down some of those abilities that help Angus draw and get back some of those resources. We do see the Crispin come out, so Brad will be attacking this turn, starting to put Angus on a bit of a clock. So yeah, interestingly enough, this Iron Thorns can, if it comes down early enough, really put in some work. Buying a few turns before Angus is able to attack can be quite valuable in this matchup, especially as a control style deck. Buying turns, having more time to discard some of those important resources for Angus really is the name of the game in this matchup. Probably one of this control deck's tougher matchups, I would say. Alrighty, so we do see the 3 energy coming down, one from the Crispin and one for the attach from turn that he was able to search off the Crispin. Interesting to see if Brad will put down his Iron Thorns. Does actually go for another Noibat. I guess you could always hope that Angus has prized 3 of his Drago V-Stars or won't be able to access them. We do see just coming in with the attack here, putting Angus on a bit of a clock. Alright, now Angus sort of would love to hit the Cancelling Cologne here. Just taking out that Ogerpon would be quite good at this stage. Angus sees that it is quite unlikely to be hitting that, so he's just going to start powering up that Drago on the bench. Looks like he might just be trying to get a few more resources and preserve these 2 prizes, preventing Brad from taking them. Going into a Cleffa, try and draw some more cards and prep himself for the rest of the game. I think if Drago is just able to set up in this matchup, it is pretty favoured. So Angus realising that as well and just wanting to get some more cards so he can get his attackers powered up before Brad starts to run away with the game here. So a good time to be using this Judge now, putting those 7 cards that Angus got off the Grasping Draw back into the deck and limiting him to just 4 cards. And we'll be knocking out this Cleffa as well. So removing all the draw for Angus, putting him to only 4 cards, could prove to be instrumental in this matchup. So we'll see what Angus draws. Looks like he does hit the Pheasantipity, so we'll have some draw if Brad decides to take out this Cleffa. And if not, then we'll still just be able to Grasping Draw again and power his hand back up. Alrighty. Would have liked to see Brad at least put the Iron Thorns down, just a bit more of an attacking option. Because I don't think these Noiverns are going to be too useful in this matchup. But possibly after this Judged for Angus might not be able to get a V-Star, so it could prove to be a bit useful. We'll just have to wait and see how Angus's hand develops. He will be able to draw 1 for turn and then either draw 3 cards off the Pheasantipity or ending his turn with the Cleffa, depending on what Brad decides to do. I imagine he will take the knockout here as well, just getting rid of that guaranteed draw that Angus has and hoping that he hasn't drawn into any Pokemon Search or Pheasantipity. But as we know, he has, and did actually top deck the energy as well. So we'll get the first knock into this Ogerpon with the Regidrago V. And we see Angus just attacking with the Dragon Laser here from the Regidrago, able to go through since it does not have an ability. Now, Brad, not sure if he plays it here, but would be interesting if he had a Bravery Charm, as I believe that would put him outside of the ranges. I think the Ogerpon has 220 HP. We do see an interesting card there in the counter game. Could be useful to chain attacks, especially if you want to penny some Pokemon. Unfortunately, Brad is ahead on prizes. Not something you see too often with this sort of control deck. So won't be able to use that at the moment. I think he might just be looking for some ball search to try and get this Ogre Pawn out and start powering it up, as he does have that energy in hand. Would have liked to see him grab an item as well. Might not be useful at this stage, but definitely could have at least gotten some discard value if he doesn't think he's going to use it for the rest of the game. Actually going for the Ultra Ball. Looks like he is valuing this Noivern EX quite highly. Might even go for the retreat this turn and hope that Angus doesn't have the V-Star. I do believe Angus does have that Giratina V-Star in the discard from his turn 2 research, so if Brad does go up with the Noivern EX, Angus will be able to respond with a KO if he just finds that V-Star. It's a bit of a risky play here from Brad, but I think, given this tough matchup, you've got to take a few risks and hope they pay off. There we go. Brad emptying his hand, attaching to that Noivern. Will be retreating and attacking with Covert Flight, I believe is the attack name for that Noivern. And doing 70 damage to the Regidrago. Now, I don't see the evolution in Angus's hand at the moment. Let's see what he decides to do with these cards. Benches another one and just attaches to it. Looks like he does have the boss's orders, so we'll be able to get a knockout and take 2 prizes. Okay, it does put the 30 damage on the Noivern. I think that's okay at this stage. I don't think it matters where the damage goes, as either way he will be knocking anything out that comes into the active. Now the 70 damage coming in from Brad, and Angus just needs to find the V-Star to all but seal up this game, I would say, with Brad only having 1 card in hand, and I believe it may have been a Feebas. Nothing really useful. Alrighty, Angus is going to start using this Teal Dance to draw some more cards. And I think even if he does miss, he's still in a pretty good spot. He can manually attach over a few turns to this Regidrago V on the bench. And Angus does hit the research. I don't think there's too many important resources in his hand that he'd be too concerned about getting rid of. And with that E-switch found, he will actually be able to fully power up that benched Drago V in case he does miss the V-Star and Brad's able to start taking prize cards. And yep, Angus just coming in with the research. Trying to find this Ultra Ball. Does find the V-Star, and I believe there is a Giratina in there that he'll be able to... actually able to knock out the Noivern in the active. And Noivern having 60 HP actually means that Angus will take the game here. Those low HP Noivern and Noibat for Brad really spelling disaster when Angus is able to get that Dragapult attack. So a pretty decisive win there for Angus in that game. I think this is a pretty mad matchup for Brad's deck. Still interesting to see a new sort of archetype emerging with a couple of good new inclusions, mainly that Milotic EX, which against decks like Charizard and Terrapagos can be really, really good at stopping some of those Terra Pokemon's attacks coming through without too many other options for attacking Pokemon. Can really shut those decks down. Alrighty, so it'll be interesting to see what Brad chooses this game. I imagine he will choose to go first, just wanting to get that attachment down and a turn to attack with Crispin. Really putting the pressure on Angus to find those answers quickly. So I think Angus looking pretty good here going into game 2. Just wanting to make sure his tech cards are not prized, mainly that Canceling Clone, and also that Prime Catcher can be quite important for getting around a Noivern if he is unable to get his V-Star out. I think as long as Angus has access to those, he is in a pretty good spot. Okay, Angus does have the Drago V there, and no basic for Brad, so we'll be giving Angus a mulligan. You don't really like to see that as the control deck, giving your opponent access to more cards is never ideal. I was just joking there. I think Angus cut one card from the top of the deck for Brad, and it did turn out to be a basic Pokemon, so expertly cut there by Angus. He must know something we don't. Alrighty, Brad just going to be shuffling up, getting ready for this game. I think he's aware of how bad of a matchup it is and just trying to enjoy himself playing against a well-seasoned veteran such as Angus. You're always going to learn a lot, so just out here having fun, which I always like to see with these players. So I didn't get a good look at Angus's hand, but I think he did have an energy, Radiant Charizard, which won't be too helpful in this matchup. Angus deciding not to cut the one card this time. Let's see if it lets Brad get a basic Pokemon this time. Does get a basic Pokemon. Is that Ogerpon? I think probably your best starter in this matchup. So Brad probably not going to be too upset to see that, even though he did give away the mulligan. So we see Angus here having a few energy cards to attach if he needs. And it looks like Brad will be going first. I don't think he's drawn for turn yet. And Angus just pointing that out right then. And Brad did already have the energy, so not that big of a deal. Again, would have liked to see Brad hold the Pokegear here, as it will allow him next turn to either use it if his hand doesn't get disrupted, or leave the Crispin there in case he does get disrupted with Iono. So bringing this Crispin out of the deck just gives Angus more of an incentive to play an Iona if he does have it. So definitely would have liked to see Brad hold it there. And not only that, but if he waits a turn, he will draw a card for turn next turn. And just in the off instance that 8th card in the deck is the Crispin, he would have missed this turn, but if he had waited a turn, he would have been able to get it off the Pokegear. So definitely think we should be holding those Pokegears in most instances. All right, Angus going to be looking for the donk here, as Brad does only have one Pokemon in play. We'll need a bit of a combination of cards here. We'll need 2 Ogerpons, 3 Grass Energy, Energy Switch, and Cancelling Cologne. A couple of one-of cards, so it's going to be quite difficult. Okay, so it looks like Angus has Ultra Balled away the Giratina, V-Star, and Charizard there. Bit of a glare, but those are the 2 cards he's discarded. Charizard not going to be doing too much in this matchup, except maybe a late game Mimikyu. When Brad's taken a few prizes, he can knock that out without a Cancelling Cologne. Alrighty, Angus piecing together some of the components for a donk, but did attach the fire energy to the active, so it doesn't look like he has enough confidence that he will get the donk, and I think that's very reasonable. Going to need a few pieces to try and get this donk this turn, so just going to play it safe. Is discarding that Noctowl. We didn't see that Noctowl come down in game 1, but is a interesting inclusion, as these Regidrago decks can be quite combo orientated sometimes, so having access to 2 of any trainer cards in your deck when you play the Noctowl is going to be quite useful in getting some of those combos off. Angus's hand looks like he didn't even get a supporter off of that Squawk and Seize, so bit of a miss. So Angus definitely playing it safe. Wasn't anywhere close to a donk, so just attaching to the active. And looks like Brad does get to keep the Crispin, so fortunately not punished for playing that Pokegear last turn. We'll probably go down for this Crispin. The only concern with this is that Brad doesn't have a way to get another basic Pokemon, so we'll give Angus another turn to get a donk against Brad. However, Brad just valuing putting the pressure on. Remembering to get the fighting energy, as the Ogerpon does have that 1 fighting energy, 2 colorless attack, and you do have to get 2 different energy cards with Crispin, so thankfully not making that mistake and getting the fighting energy. And I think the rest of the hand for Brad isn't looking too good, so, Brad did have a Judge there as an option to play, but did note that Angus didn't play a supporter that turn, even after the Squawk and Seize. So it's very likely that Angus doesn't have much of a playable hand this turn either. Didn't even attach the grass energy to the Ogre Pond, which I think he probably would have done if he had it as well. So Brad attaching with Crispin, then attaching for turn the fighting energy. Yeah, it doesn't have any other basic Pokemon, just a couple of tools. I probably would have liked to see the Team Evolution come down just to discard out of the hand in case Angus does hand disrupt. I don't think you're using that at all in this matchup anymore. So it would be good to just thin that out of the deck. Angus playing the Vessel. Might have had that in the hand last turn. I didn't quite see, but I think holding on to it for the next turn is quite reasonable as well. If you get hand disrupted with Iona or Judge, you can draw back into the Vessel or draw into energies, which you're not too unhappy to see a few of those when you have some Ogre Ponds in play. All right, Angus probably going to accelerate one of these first and see what he gets. Does attach to one on the bench, so keeping that option open for a donk. He does just need to switch, attach for turn, and cancelling clone. We do see that cancelling clone there at the bottom of the deck. Thankfully, he's going to shuffle that deck, hopefully put it in a bit of a better position for himself. And I still don't think Angus has a supporter, so might just be taking the turn off again. Could possibly go for that first attack on the Regidrago to discard the top 3 cards and attach some energy, but I think now that Angus has gotten rid of a lot of energy out of his deck with the Earthen Vessel, I think he'd probably just discard more. Alrighty, Brad going the Judge again, sort of bailing Angus out here. Didn't seem like he had too much going on in his hand, so Brad thinking that he just needs to get some basic Pokemon rather than sit around and give Angus more turns to try and get the donk here. Especially since knocking his Pokemon out next turn, Angus wouldn't need the switch and would just need an energy and cancelling clone to win the game, which isn't really too much to ask, especially when he has this Regidrago V on the bench, willing and able to be evolved and use the V-Star to dig even deeper. Oh, Angus sneaky peeking at an extra card there. Fortunately, I don't think it will matter. Angus looks like he's getting enough cards here to win the game. I wonder if Angus has it guaranteed. He does just need a grass energy. Okay, and he does hit it off. Would be interesting to see if Angus did have it in his discard without that grass energy. Otherwise, I would have liked to see him promote the Ogre Pond on the bench to retreat to guarantee that grass energy in the discard, but didn't matter. Was able to hit the grass off the Legacy Star from the Regidrago V-Star. And as we see the players just discussing that Brad should have played the Scoop Up Cyclone just so he could end on his own terms and not give Angus the satisfaction. But obviously you don't know Angus has the cancelling cologne, so you never want to take that risk. But the players just having a bit of a joke here about that. So as we can see, a pretty favourable matchup for Regidrago V-Star, and unfortunately for Brad, not really too much you can do in that matchup. But there we have it. So Angus moving on to 2-0 in the tournament. Brad unfortunately dropping down to 1-1, but still chance for him to make top cut later on. So thanks everyone for watching. Again, like, comment, any feedback you have about the commentary of the games or any plays you would have made differently. Would love to hear it down below. So we'll be coming back with another video of round 3 soon. So stay tuned for that. And if you're enjoying some of the content here, feel free to subscribe. Appreciate it. And hopefully be doing a few more of these videos in the near future. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.